Here's a video all about non-toxic foods, what they are and how to find them. Non-toxic foods help you avoid illness and can help you recover from an illness. Most things you will find you can avoid and heal with nutrition. First, a disclaimer. I'm not a qualified healthcare professional and the information provided is for general information purposes only. I'm going to get straight into it, starting with the issues in our diet. So I'm going to start by saying it's not that complicated to be above average and healthy, because 99% of people aren't. And this is all from the book Never Be Sick Again. The link will be in the description for that. So the first thing is low-fat products and typical supermarket meat and produce can build a healthy diet. But the actual issue with what we consume is that too much of our diet is created from an officially approved Big Four. These four foods are the foods that take us towards ill health rather than good health. So these Big Four are the ones that contribute to illness because they are toxic. The Big Four are sugar, white flour, milk products, and lastly, processed oils. Even foods that everyone thinks is healthy, like certain cereals or multigrain breads or, milk, people think that's nutritious, actually aren't, and they either have additives like bread, for example. If you make bread naturally with the 3 ingredients you need, I think it's not healthy, but it's healthier than supermarket bread. So it says in the information from the book that multigrain breads usually contain impoverished flour, but also when you look at the ingredients, it'll say like E39 and all these different additives that was random, E39, but all these different additives, all 90 ingredients, when, like I said, you need don't you need 2? Isn't it just flour and water you need? Anyway, you don't need that many ingredients. They're all additives, extras, bad things that are toxic to us. We then also eat unhealthy cells of plants and animals, which obviously then cannot create healthy cells within humans. If you're not buying organic, then you're consuming produce, unless it's bought from a farm shop or butcher, whatever. You're consuming produce, again, from a supermarket, if it's not organic, that's just been given toxic pellets and livestock feed, which obviously isn't going to give them good health, or the human that consumes which is dead cells anyway, after it's been weeks before you eat the meat. That's not going to make humans healthy either. And then on the plant side of things, the chemicals that are used to grow, harvest, process, and then even the transporting of all the fruit, veg is, all the nutrients just diminish while travelling over time. So even the fruit and veg is a struggle, again, unless organic. So if it's not toxic from how it's been harvested, chemical sprays, then usually it takes forever before you actually eat it. Or, for example, apples are cut before ripe, so then they have less nutrients. So it's all this big, massive circle of problems with food nowadays, sadly. And again, in no way can such food support our cell chemistry. Too little of our food, virtually none for many people, is eaten raw. Now just think what food you actually eat raw. It's probably your 1 apple a day for most people, your average person. Raw food is what actually provides you with nutrients, the most nutrients. Think again, I always think ancestors years and years and years ago, when things were right, what they ate, they'd grow their own food, pick off of trees, everything raw, eat it there and then after it's been picked, ripe, ready, nutrients, full of nutrients. Or if they was to eat meat, they'd kill whatever animal and eat it very soon, and it's not gonna lose loads of nutrients. Not only that, it wouldn't have been a farmed animal, so it would have grazed on normal, nutritious soil, grass, and then again, the humans would eat that and get nutrients. So majority of people are eating already ready foods, like ready meals, things made up that you then just stick in the oven, and they barely have any nutrients in them because, for example, vegetables, when they're cut up, lose nutrients. Vegetables that are sat in a box for weeks lose nutrients. Meat loses nutrients instantly after there's no blood and oxygen going through them when the animal's alive. So cooking damages food's nutritional values. Some cooking methods, particularly those that use high heat or that char foods, create powerful mutagens and carcinogens. So this is the thing with oils. No oil's good, really. There's a fair few. I think there's coconut oil and 2 others that are fine. Whereas like it said, it releases mutagens and carcinogens when you cook meat, and that's because of the oil within the meat, but also because of the oil you use to cook the meat. Then the bigger issue with that, well, this is a little extra point for you, olive oil. Everyone thinks, oh, it's great, it's healthy, it's from olives. As soon as you cook that over 180 degrees, don't know for a fact it's 180, but it's a certain temperature, it becomes carcinogenic and toxic. Whereas if you have olive oil raw, uncooked, just like a shot of it, it's healthy. Handling and preparation methods. So as I mentioned earlier, cutting foods reduces its nutritional value. From extended storing of foods in a refrigerator or freezer to chopping and mashing, these rob foods of many nutrients such as vitamins and minerals that we believe we are consuming. B12 is the biggest one. B12 is like what the body really needs and what vegans usually miss out on, but it's also the one that deteriorates really quick over time. The average person preparing foods damages and destroys the power of the food, even the food individuals consider to be fresh. So think of all the fresh things you do get, onions, peppers, broccoli, you end up cooking away all the nutrients. And even the only way you don't get rid of nutrients in food is, for example, broccoli, if you boil it in water, you then consume the water as well, which no one does. I don't even want to do that. So again, it's hard unless you're eating raw. And again, as mentioned earlier, I'm getting ahead of myself. Commercial practices used to supply food from farms to supermarkets are overwhelmingly destructive. Produce is often harvested before it's ripe, stored for long periods of time, and subjected to harmful methods to ripen or colour it artificially for presentation in the fresh produce section of the supermarket. So there was a study on this done where a chemistry teacher got oranges and tracked them back to when they were picked, and he actually found out. And he also checked the vitamin C levels, and they were barely anything. Anyway, tracked it back and found out that the oranges was harvested before ripe, so before ready, when they was green, and then artificially dyed orange to make them look like they was ready. And again, this is the issue with non-organic produce. You can't get everything organic. I know how hard it is. I can't, and it's considerably more expensive than normal. But there's a reason for that, because you're paying for quality rather than just paying for unnutritious food. It depends what you want to do and depends what situation you're in. So it's said in the book as well that most of these non-organic produce, fruit and veg mainly, has already lost nearly all certain vitamins just in the shop because they're sat there for weeks. You wouldn't believe how long some things are sat there. So they've already lost it before you've even bought it, never mind before you've eaten the actual food. Then a few other points, even just how we eat our foods can reduce nutrition taken in, how we chew it, or if we don't chew it much, just swallow it. When you chew and your saliva and everything releases enzymes to make you be able to actually digest the food. So that's one of the issues. So even from good diets, you can not be getting the nutrients you need. And then also because of wrong combinations of food, there's loads again in the book. Everyone needs to read the book. I'm not just saying it for the sake of it. It's a book everyone should read. Everyone should teach their children because it teaches you real health. So again, Nev Pistic again, in the description, it tells you everything, but it talks about combinations of food. Even if you have, you shouldn't have protein first and then fruit and then veg, whatever. The order is fruit first, acidic first, then alkaline fruit, and then veg, and then carbs and then protein, I think. Anyway, it's in the book, or you can research it, you'll probably be able to find it out. So you need to take food in the right way, if you know what I mean. And also, people that have acid reflux is usually from what order you eat your foods in or what combinations of food you eat together. So again, this is all just interferes with effective digestion. Then lastly on this part, most of the vitamins and mineral supplements sold today are poor quality and not worth what you pay for them. They do not provide us with the nutrients we think we are buying. Again, massive part in the book, not what I'm talking about today, but it talks about quality supplements, majority aren't. I went to a health food store equivalent in the UK and looked at all the supplements and they all had additives and bulking agents and all these different additives instead of just magnesium, 100% what you actually need and what you get from food. So again, a way around this is just search up what foods have magnesium in if that's what you need and just scran loads of it. Now onto foods that are nutritious and non-toxic are from the following categories. Organic food, as I said, produced naturally without any man-made chemicals, such as pesticides, herbicides, fertilizers, preservatives, antibiotics, hormones, processed animal feed, etc. There's many things. These foods are generally higher in nutrients and lower in toxins than non-organic, commercially produced foods of the same type. Fresh foods harvested at their peak of nutrition, ripeness, and consumed shortly thereafter. Food that is harvested does not gain any more nutrition, even though it may continue to ripen, and in fact nutrition begins to decline. This is logic. If you pick an apple, it's not gonna gain nutrients when it's not attached to the actual tree that's providing it with nutrients. Kind of obvious. So when it says ripen at home, it's a load of BS. There's gaining money for selling non-nutritious food, so try and avoid that. Again, hard, not that easy. Some foods deteriorate faster than others, but the point is that you want to eat food as soon after harvesting as possible. The more the food sits around, the more nutrition it will lose. Unprocessed foods, minimally altered from the way that nature provides. Avoid foods that are cooked, peeled, cut, ground, dehydrated, frozen, canned, etc. Unprocessed foods are whole, complete foods, rather than just part of a food. Whole grain instead of flour made from grains, for example, or potatoes with the peel still on. Then here's a short little story from the book about the guy that wrote it. I can remember when I was a child on my uncle's farm picking ripe apples from the trees and eating them. Then I can also remember harvesting fresh peas, strawberries and sweet corn from my own garden and eat them raw within minutes of harvesting. Not only do fresh foods taste better, they are substantially better for health. Much of the food purchased in standard supermarkets today is old. Presumably fresh produce such as apples, oranges, cucumbers are put in cold storage and can be anywhere from months to years old. Supermarket eggs are commonly anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 months old, and they still can be labelled as fresh. Food is reasonably hardy, but minerals are not. Nutrients are quite fragile and are destroyed by heat, light, oxygen, and overly long storage. The most fragile vitamins are C, B, and B12. Unless you grow food yourself or obtain freshly harvested from local farmers, it's likely the food does not have the nutrition you think it has. Irradiated foods may be years old before you eat them and thus completely devoid of vitamins. Fruit and vegetables undergo substantial destruction of nutrients in modern cold storage. In the Kellogg report, Dr. Joseph Beasley offered examples of the nutritional loss that occurs after harvesting. Spinach and asparagus lose 50 to 70% of their folic acid when kept at room temperature for 3 days. Vegetables such as asparagus, broccoli and green beans typically lose 50% of their vitamin C before they reach the produce counter. Potatoes lose as much as 78% of their vitamin C during long-term storage at 36 degrees Fahrenheit. Blanching of vegetables prior to freezing can destroy up to half of the vitamins. Freezing meats can destroy up to 70% of its vitamins. So a bit of a summary of that part. Commercial, make-believe foods lack nutrition not only because of losses after harvest, but also because food is frequently harvested before it is ripe. This practice may be necessary for our modern distribution system to bring food to the customer before it rots, but early harvesting also reduces nutrition. The ripening process is critical to develop the full vitamin and mineral content of a food. Vitamin and mineral content rise near the peak of ripeness. Also, flavour improves. Now, shopping for food. Healthy substitutes for the boxed cereals was found in the grain section of the health food store. We purchased a variety of organic, whole grains that could be cooked like rice and fed to children. By the way, the kids loved it. Okay, so this is a story, I should probably give you context, of the guy that wrote the book would go with people to the shops to get them healthy food. So as Cynthia, Tom and I walked through the store, I began to explain principles that would help them in the future. Almost any type of food that has been packaged in a box jar, can or bottle has been processed and is likely to contain toxic chemicals. These toxic chemicals either can be deliberately added to the food additives, or they can result from food production practices, so chemical residues. Whatever the source of these chemicals, processed foods such as breakfast cereal, bread, canned foods, frozen foods, oils and vegetables, shortenings, soft drinks, ice cream, cookies, cake and candy are loaded with them. In addition to their lack of nutrition, the high toxic content in processed foods make them a poor choice. A variety of food additives are used to enhance flavour, colour and texture, to help foods process better and to extend their shelf life. In all, more than 3,000 FDA-approved additives are in use today, and the average American ingests more than 10 pounds of them per year. Imagining someone eating 10 pounds of toxic synthetic chemicals a year is difficult, but we do it a little at a time without realising how it adds up. Although food additives must be approved for safety, frequently they are initially determined to be safe, only to be removed later from the market due to unanticipated harmful effects. Do not assume that food additives are safe just because the FDA has approved them. Furthermore, researchers usually test one additive at a time, even though we eat them in combination. Almost no research gets into studying the safety of food additive combinations. Our modern exposure to many different combinations of food additives is a gigantic and dangerous chemistry experiment. The combined toxic effects of food additives were reported in a study conducted by B.H. Eshoff. This was published in a 1976 Journal of Food Science that examined 3 different FDA-approved food additives: an artificial colour, an artificial sweetener and an emulsifier, a substance that keeps oil and water from separating. When fed one at a time, these food additives caused no readily observed side effects in experimental animals, but when 2 of the additives were consumed at the same time, the animal became sick. When all 3 were combined, the test animal died in less than 2 weeks. Bearing this in mind, pick up an average box of breakfast cereals and just about any other highly processed food and count how many additives are in the product. Obviously you are eating these additives in combination. After examining the labels on boxes of breakfast cereal in Cynthia and Tom's pantry, we discarded all of them because the labels showed that they contained artificial colours, flavours, preservatives and hydrogenated oils. Read the labels on the foods that you buy. When a food contains artificial colours, flavours, preservatives or other additives, do not buy it. So this is all going to sound confusing and hard, but the thing is, it isn't that hard. Like, first of all, I'd say remember quality over quantity. Everyone will say it's more expensive for all these foods, but if you buy quality and eat quality, it's 10 times better than eating or buying quantity of all these different things that then don't have any nutrients in them. Secondly, many people that become ill when they're ill would pay any amount of money to not be ill anymore. So instead of getting ill, pay money now to get the foods that are healthy for you so that you don't get ill in the future. Lastly, a lot of the foods people buy are what they call make-believe foods. They are loads of different foods or nice tasting foods, loads of ingredients in one that are not nutritious. They just have things that either make you more hungry so you consume more food, or that, like I say, they just make-believe. So you eat them, they fill you up, but you don't get any nutrients out of them. The average person, that their food will look like breakfast, they'll have cereal, no nutrition at all. The lunch, sandwich, no nutrition at all. And then the tea would be something from the supermarket, like that's already packaged and already made, that again, no nutrition. So again, I don't want to make anyone buy anything, but it's really helpful for everyone. And again, if anyone you know is ill, or if you're ill, or if you don't want to be ill, or you want to understand food, nutrition, toxins, then again, the book is in the description. It's the only book I think, like I said earlier, everyone should be reading. Because it's one thing I think everyone has in common. Like, everyone wants to be healthy, do they not? So if you've got this far in this video, you obviously have an interest in being healthy. So you should probably watch this video on screen now, where I talk about the toxic products in your home that you need to be aware of. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.